The name Enoch echoes through the halls of history, a whisper in the ancient scriptures, known for a single profound mystery. He was the man who walked with God and was taken from the earth without tasting death. But this brief description is merely the cover of a book filled with cosmic secrets, terrifying truths, and revelations that shake the very foundation of what we know about heaven, hell, and the intricate workings of the universe. For centuries, the true account of his journey has remained veiled, a story known only to a few. Today, we pull back that veil. This is the story not just of Enoch's disappearance, but of his ascension. This is the truth of his journey through 10 distinct heavens, a guided tour of creation's architecture where he witnessed the destiny of angels and men and ultimately stood before the indescribable face of God himself. The revelation began not in a field or on a mountain, but in the quiet solitude of his own home. On the first day of the month, the patriarch Enoch was in his house alone, resting on his bed. But sleep offered no peace. His mind was a tempest of questions that had haunted his waking hours. He had looked upon the world and seen both its staggering beauty and its inexplicable cruelty. And in the quiet of his heart, he wrestled with the silence of a God whose ways felt impossibly distant. It was in this state of spiritual turmoil that slumber finally took him, and his world dissolved not into the formless landscape of dreams, but into a new reality, more solid and awesome than waking life. There, standing at the head of his bed, appeared two men. But the word men is a disservice to their form. They were beings of an impossible scale, exceeding big, so large that Enoch had never seen their like on earth. Their faces were not made of flesh, but shone with the pure, brilliant light of the sun. Their eyes were like burning lamps, alive with a fire that seemed to peer into the very core of his soul. And from their lips, fire came forth, woven into their very speech. Their clothing was a wonder, shifting in appearance, colored like the richest purple. And their singing was of a kind he had never heard. From their shoulders unfurled wings brighter than the most refined gold, and their hands were whiter than freshly fallen snow. At the sound of their voices calling his name, Enoch rose from his sleep. He saw them clearly, these two celestial beings standing directly in front of him. He tried to salute them, to offer a sign of respect, but a profound fear seized him, so powerful that it felt like a physical weight crushing his spirit. The very appearance of his face was changed, contorted by the sheer terror of the moment. One of the luminous men spoke first, his voice a command that resonated through the room but was tempered with an unexpected reassurance. "Have courage, Enoch," he said. "Do not fear. The eternal God sent us to you, and lo, you shall today ascend with us into heaven." The other angel spoke with an authority that was as absolute as a law of nature, his tone leaving no room for doubt. "You shall tell your sons and all your household all that they shall do without you on earth in your house," he commanded. "And let no one seek you, till the Lord return you to them." The command was absolute, the mission unthinkable. Yet Enoch made haste to obey them. He went out from his house and made his way to the doors, just as he was ordered. He summoned his sons Musela, Regem, and Guidadand, made known to them all the marvels the angels had told him. He tried to explain the impossible, to prepare them for a life without their father, to entrust to them the future of their family under the gaze of heaven itself. When Enoch had told his sons everything, the moment of departure arrived. The angels took him onto their wings. The world he knew rushed away beneath him as they bore him up onto the first heaven, placing him gently upon the clouds. And from that vantage point, his mortal eyes were opened to the cosmos. He looked higher and saw the ether, the very substance between the worlds, and his journey into the divine architecture truly began. The angels placed him firmly on the first heaven and revealed to him a very great sea, an expanse of celestial water so vast it was greater than any earthly sea. Here, they brought before his face the elders and the rulers of the stellar orders. The more stoic of his guides pointed out the 200 angels who rule the stars, whose sacred duty is to service the heavens. Enoch watched in awe as they flew with their wings, coming round all those who sail upon that celestial ocean. From this first heaven, He was allowed to look down and see the treasure houses of the snow. He saw not just piles of ice, but the very essence of cold, a terrible and beautiful power held in reserve by angelic keepers of its storehouses. He saw the clouds and the angelic guardians who watch over them, understanding whence they come out and into which they go. The guides then showed him the treasure house of the dew, which shimmered with the richness of olive oil, its form taking on the appearance of all the flowers of the earth. This was the fundamental storehouse of the physical world, the place where the raw materials of Earth's climate were kept and managed by countless angels according to divine command. From the light and order of the first heaven, his celestial guides took him and led him up onto the second. The transition was jarring and immediate. The shimmering light vanished, replaced by a darkness that was greater and deeper than any earthly darkness. In that oppressive, suffocating gloom, Enoch saw prisoners hanging, watched over by somber, dark-looking angels. They were awaiting a great and boundless judgment that was yet to come. The air itself felt thick with a sorrow, so ancient it seemed to have weight, and from this realm, a sound of incessant weeping echoed through all hours. Enoch's breath caught in his throat. It was one thing to ponder evil from a distance, another to be immersed in the air of its eternal consequence. The sorrow was a living thing here, and for a terrifying moment, it felt as though the weeping spirits turned their attention to him. Their anguish, a tangible force threatening to pull him into their despair. He felt a cold dread creep into his soul, a temptation to believe that all was lost in this ocean of regret. The angel who had first spoken to him placed a hand on his shoulder, the gentle touch a shield against the encroaching gloom. "Hold fast to the light within you, Enoch," he whispered. "Do not let their despair become your own. You are a witness, not a prisoner." Strengthened, Enoch turned to his guides, his voice trembling but firm. "Wherefore are these incessantly tortured?" he asked. The second angel answered, his voice devoid of emotion, a simple statement of cosmic fact. "These are God's apostates," he explained. "They are the ones who obeyed not God's commands, but took counsel with their own will and turned away with their prince, who also is fastened on the fifth heaven." This was the place for those who had known the path of light and consciously chosen darkness, a realm where the only reality was the eternal echo of a single ruinous choice. From the sorrowful gloom of the second heaven, the two angels took him and led him up onto the third. The shift was as dramatic as the last, but this time it was into a realm of breathtaking beauty. They placed him there, and as Enoch looked downwards, he saw the produce of these places, a goodness and abundance such as had never been known for on earth. This was paradise. He saw all the sweet flowering trees and beheld their fruits, which were sweet-smelling, and all the foods borne by them bubbled with a fragrant exhalation. In the midst of this paradise stood the tree of life, the very place where the Lord rests when he goes up into paradise. This tree was of an ineffable goodness and fragrance, adorned more than every other existing thing. From the garden, 4 springs came forth, sending out honey, milk, oil, and wine. Keeping watch over this divine garden were 300 angels, beings of immense light, who, with incessant sweet singing and never silent voices, served the Lord throughout all days and hours. But the third heaven held a terrible and shocking secret. From the sublime beauty of paradise, his guides led Enoch up onto its northern side. There, they showed him a very terrible place. It was a realm of cruel darkness and an unilluminated gloom where there was no light, only a murky fire that was constantly flaming aloft. A fiery river came forth, and the whole place was fire. Yet paradoxically, it was also a place of frost and ice, of thirst and shivering. The bonds on the prisoners held here were very cruel, and the angels who served as wardens were fearful and merciless, bearing angry weapons and enacting merciless torture. "Woe! Woe!" Enoch cried out, his voice filled with horror. "How very terrible is this place!" The more stoic of his guides spoke, his voice cutting through the patriarch's shock. "This place, O Enoch, is prepared for those who dishonor God." He then detailed the specific sins that led to this specific torment. Sins against nature, child corruption, witchcraft, theft, lies, murder, and the oppression of the poor. He spoke of those who, seeing the poor, took away their goods to enrich themselves, who, though able to satisfy the hungry, made them to die, who, though able to clothe, stripped the naked. It was for those who knew not their Creator and instead bowed to soulless and lifeless gods. For all these, the angel explained, this place is prepared as their eternal inheritance. The third heaven was a stunning revelation of divine duality, the ultimate blissful reward of paradise, and the ultimate specific and terrifying punishment for the wicked existing side by side. What does it mean, Enoch wondered, that heaven holds both perfect joy and perfect torment? It was a truth too vast for his mortal mind to grasp, a divine equation of justice that was both terrifying and absolute. Before Enoch is taken to the very heart of the cosmos, let us pause. He has seen the mechanics of creation, the consequences of rebellion, and the dual destinies of paradise and damnation. If you stood where Enoch stood, witnessing the silent grief of the fallen on the second heaven, would you feel pity or fear? What does their fate say about the weight of a single choice? The angels then took him and led him up onto the fourth heaven. Here, the patriarch was shown the great clockwork of the cosmos itself. He saw all the successive goings and all the rays of the light of the sun and moon. He was allowed to measure their goings and compare their light, and he saw with his own eyes that the sun's light is greater than the moon's. This was not a passive celestial body, but a living chariot of fire on a divine circuit, powered and attended by legions of angels, including 15 myriads by day and 1,000 by night. The relentless, perfect motion of the cosmos was a silent sermon on the unchangeable nature of God's law and the ceaseless march of time, within which all judgment and mercy unfolds. From the cosmic order of the fourth heaven, the angels took Enoch onto the fifth. The sight that greeted him was somber and strange. There he saw many and countless soldiers called the Grigori. They had a human appearance, but their size was greater than that of great giants, and their faces were withered with an ancient, profound sorrow. The silence of their mouths was perpetual. There was no service on the fifth heaven, only this silent, mournful host of withered giants. Enoch looked upon them, and his heart ached with a complex sorrow. These were the Watchers, the beings whose lust had brought ruin upon the earth. Yet, seeing them now, trapped in their eternal, silent grief, he felt an unexpected pang of pity. Their sin was great, but their punishment seemed to stretch into an equally vast eternity of remorse. He turned to the more compassionate angel, his question more than a simple inquiry. "Why?" he asked, the single word carrying the weight of his confusion. "Why must their grief be so endless?" The angel, whose voice was like law, answered, "These are the Grigori," he stated, "who with their prince, Saturnael, rejected the Lord of Light. 3 of them went down onto the earth from the Lord's throne, and befouled the earth with their deeds. And therefore God judged them with great judgment, and they weep for their brethren, and they will be punished on the Lord's great day. They were not being punished by fire or bonds, but by the perfect, unending memory of their own failure. Their prison was their own grief, a chilling testament to the fact that the greatest torments are not always external." Then his guides took him from that place of sorrow and bore him up onto the 6th heaven. And here, magnificent glory returned. Enoch saw 7 bands of angels, all of them very bright and very glorious. If the first heaven was the divine storehouse for the physical world, the 6th was its grand cosmic ministry. These were not angels who managed snow and dew, but archangels who make the orders of the world, who learn the goings of the stars and the revolution of the sun. This was the celestial capital, the realm of cosmic law and divine administration. Here were the angels appointed over seasons, years, rivers, and seas. And most importantly, Enoch saw the angels who write all the souls of men, and all their deeds, and their lives before the Lord's face. In their midst were 6 phoenixes, 6 cherubim, and 6 six-winged ones, continually with one voice singing one song. The 2 angels lifted him up from there, onto the 7th heaven. The instant he arrived, he was confronted by a great light, and a power so overwhelming it was almost unbearable. He saw fiery troops of great archangels, incorporeal forces, dominions, orders, and governments. The sheer power and concentrated holiness of this realm was too much for a mortal man. Enoch became afraid and began to tremble with great terror. The two angels stood on either side of him, their presence the only thing keeping his mortal form from dissolving under the immense pressure of holiness. "Have courage, Enoch, do not fear," they said in unison. And then they showed him the Lord from afar, sitting on his very high throne. Above this were the 8th and 9th heavens, Muzaloth, the changer of the seasons, and Kuvakim, the home of the 12 constellations. They were the final, breathtaking steps, building anticipation for the climax. But it was on the 10th heaven, Aravoth, that he finally saw the appearance of the Lord's face. It was like iron made to glow in fire, and when brought out it emits sparks, and it burns. The Lord's face was ineffable, marvelous, and very awful, and very, very terrible. The Lord's throne was very great, and not made with hands, and the quantity of those standing around him, troops of cherubim and seraphim, was beyond measure, as was the beauty of their incessant singing. Overcome by this vision of ineffable glory, Enoch fell prone and bowed down to the Lord. The divine presence was a weight that no mortal could bear. His journey, his questions, his very sense of self seemed to collapse under the magnitude of this glory. And the Lord, with his own lips, spoke directly to the mortal man before him. "Have courage, Enoch, do not fear," the divine voice said. "Arise and stand before my face into eternity." The great archangel Michael lifted Enoch up and led him before the Lord's face. And the Lord said to his servants, "Let Enoch stand before my face into eternity." And the glorious ones, the highest angels in all of creation, bowed down to the Lord and said, "Let Enoch go according to your word." The final, impossible transformation was at hand. The Lord said to Michael, "Go and take Enoch from out of his earthly garments and anoint him with my sweet ointment and put him into the garments of my glory." And Michael did thus, exactly as the Lord told him. He anointed Enoch and dressed him, and the appearance of that ointment was more brilliant than the great light of heaven, and it was like a sweet dew, with a mild smell that shone like the sun's ray. The transformation was not just a change of clothes, it was a necessary shedding of his mortal limitations, the only way he could endure the eternal presence of God. When it was complete, Enoch looked at himself. The mortal man was gone. In his place was a being of light. As he himself recorded, "I was like one of his glorious ones." He had walked with God, and now God had taken him not into the silence of death, but into the fullness of his eternal, unimaginable glory. This incredible journey was a divine revelation, showing the meticulous structure of God's universe, the dual and permanent destinies of righteousness and sin, and the stunning path of a mortal man remade by the divine. From the storehouses of snow to the fiery place of punishment, from the sorrow of the fallen watchers to the administrative glory of the archangels, everything exists within a perfect, divine order. What does such an order, one that contains both perfect paradise and perfect damnation, tell us about the nature of a creator who is both merciful and just? If you wish to learn what happened next, what mission God gave to the newly glorified Enoch, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell. His next task was to write down all he had learned, and you will not want to miss the secrets he was told to reveal.